Hi, welcome back to Therapy Designs. If you're new to this channel, my name is Kelly and this channel is all about how to create print-on-demand designs using Canva. So if that is something that you're interested in, please do stick around. So in today's video, we're going to be going over how to create this design right here. It is a cross niche between the very popular St. Patrick's Day niche, which is coming up, and then the very popular video gaming niche. So whenever you take two very popular niches and you combine them together, you know, that can always sell very well. And of course you can do this a lot of different ways, but this one here, popular niche, says GamerCon, and it just is pretty simple. It just has the GamerCon words and then the video game controller. I did go ahead and use some clipping masks and other effects to make it sort of give that grunge look and to make everything pop the way it does. If you would like to learn how to do this, please do stick around. So as always, we're just going to start with our blank backdrop. This is 4500 by 5400 pixels. I will be designing on black today. So again, I'm just going to go ahead, select my blank backdrop, go to the top left-hand corner where it says background color, and I will be selecting black. So for today's design, we are going to do a little bit of a cross niche. So we're going to be cross niching the gamer niche, which is super popular with St. Patrick's Day, as that is coming up in about a month. So what we're going to do is do a combination of text and graphics. Now, I do want to show you guys some of the cool, I guess, textures that people have done on video game controllers before. So we're going to use a clipping mask. So the first thing I want to do is get my video game controller. So I'm going to be coming up to the left-hand side. I'm going to go up to the tab that says Elements, click on that, and from here I'm just going to do a little search for video game. And it's going to be controller. And so there's lots of video game controllers that we can go with. I'm going to select graphics. And then from here, we can pick anything that we want. I do believe I just did this one right here. It's pretty simple. I'm going to go ahead and make it white so that we can see it. So there it is in white. And so this is the, this is going to be the frame that I am going to use for my mask. And so I'm going to go ahead and just make it nice and big so it fills a good amount of the screen. Up here, I'm just going to title it Video Game Controller. Video Game Controller. And this is going to be my frame. And I'm going to go ahead and download this right here. It's going to stay a PNG. I'm going to click Transparent Background, and I'm just going to download as is. So this will be my frame. And now that I have a frame, I do want to put a mask on it. Now, as we are making a St. Patrick's Day design, I do want something green, okay? And I want something with a little bit of texture. So up here, I'm going to go ahead and search for anything that might be green background. And that's an easy way to start. Oops, if I spell it right. Green background. And so now you can pick just about any green background you want, and it will just go ahead and we can put the mask right over the controller. And so there's all sorts of different cool textures, different shades of green, and of course you can play with those too using some of your photo effects. So anything that you think might look cool. So there's some stripes, you know, just tons of different greens that you can pick, splotchy greens, gradients, greens with, I don't know what that is, leaves. So go ahead, look through here. There's tons of fun ones. That one's pretty cool too. And we're just going to find whatever it is that kind of looks best. And you can always do multiple versions too. So if you do have a lot of slots, or you're using something like Redbubble where you can use as many as you want, there would be nothing stopping you from putting up multiple images, or sort of multiple versions of the same style design. So it could more or less be the same design, just with, you know, different masks, just to give it a slightly different look. And you can obviously see there's just a ton of cool greens that I could go with. So I could even do, like, let's say green. Let's go more of a grunge background and see if green grunge comes up. So I'd like this one here, and this one I think is what I was going to go with before. It just is a little bit of a grungy look to it. Nice green color, and that's probably the one I'm going to go with. There's also one here, and this one's got little, you know, cracks in it. That might be a cool one too. So any of these might be good options. I could even make it extra grunge if I wanted to by literally just taking something like this, that grunge splatter, and I could layer that grunge splatter right over the top to give it more of an extra grunge look like that. And I could do that multiple times over if I wanted to. So I could take that, hit Control D to duplicate it. I could then, you know, turn it if I wanted to so it's facing a slightly different direction. I can blow it up, move it around, you know, I can do whatever I want to sort of give it that grungy look. I can even change the color here and maybe make it more of a really dark green on the grunge. Something like that. So you can tell I can just, you know, play with whatever I want and make my little mask. So now I'm going to go ahead and do mask, and I'm just going to put green grunge mask. And again, you can play with this and make it however you want, but I'm just going to download this as is. So we'll just hit download. It does not need to be a transparent background, so I can just save it as is as a PNG. And it is that fast, and again, that easy. And perfect. And now I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of all of this, and I'm going to keep my video game controller here for the rest of my design. Now I'm going to jump over to Photopea, so I'm just going to open a new tab on my computer, and I'm just going to type in Photopea, because it's just that easy. It should be the very first one that comes up, and I can click on that, and this should be the page that opens. From here, if you just click this middle button, it says Open from Computer. It should pull up your downloads, and then all you'll have to do is start with your video game controller frame and open that. And it'll pull up your frame. And then from there, on the top left-hand corner where it says File, you can click there, 3 spaces down, it says Open in Place. It should pull up your downloads again, and then you will click on your green grunge mask. And it will pull your mask up. And so now we have our 2 layers over here, and I've gotten a lot of questions about this in other videos. So whenever we're working with the clipping mask, you want to make sure that your mask is at the top. So you want your mask layer to be above the background layer. So right now it is. If I was to click on it and drag it down, you know, now it's on the bottom. So you don't want it to look like that. You want it the other way. You want it on top. You also need to make sure that this is the layer that's selected. So for example, if I just click down here, now my background layer is selected. I need to make sure that my top layer is selected. If you've got all of that, it should work just fine. If you're having issues, just make sure that you've got your layers, you know, in the right order, and, you know, make sure the right layer is selected. Now you're going to come up to the top where it says Layer. Click there. About halfway down, you'll see Clipping Mask. You click on that and it should do all the work for you, and now you should have your clipping mask on there. And that's really all you should need this for, and it should be that fast and that easy and that free and that everything. So from here, we'll go to the top left-hand corner where it says File. I'm going to click there. About halfway down, it'll say Export As. I'm going to select PNG. Give it a second. And then here we've got, you know, the title up here, which you can change if you want to. It's still a PNG, still 4500 by 5400 pixels. I just have to hit save. It should automatically save it. And then from there, I can jump right back over to my Canva page. And so now I'm right back on Canva. I am just going to go ahead and drag and drop this right onto my page, or you can go to Uploads and select Upload Files and upload it that way. And I'm going to give it a second to finalize. If you have the tab closed, you'll notice over here it looks like it's sort of filling with this blue liquid. Once it's all the way full, that means it is ready to go, and you can play with it from there however you want. So there it is. It's now up. Now I'm going to go ahead, shrink this down a little bit so it's easier to use. Now I'm going to keep this white one here because what I want to do is actually layer these to give it a little depth. So I'm going to keep this white one, but I'm going to make it maybe a light green color or gray, something lighter than this, but, you know, maybe not bright white. So if I come to the top left where it says color, I can click there and I can select any color I want. Maybe I want more of a grayish color, or maybe even a greenish grayish color. So something in that realm might look good, just enough to give a little extra texture. So now I'm going to take this video game controller, I'm going to pull it out so it fits all the way across the page, and then it should be about the same size. And then all I have to do is sort of use my arrow keys on my keyboard. So right now I'm not using my mouse, I'm just pushing the up, down, side arrows, and I can move that top image 1 pixel at a time any direction I want, so that I get this little bit of an offset. So that's just going to give me sort of this little shadow, see right there? And that is all there is to it. And of course I can change that shadow color at any time if I want to, but that looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. So assuming I like the way this looks, I can group these 2 layers together so that I can move them all as one. In order to do that, I can click anywhere outside of these layers. So if I was to left click and then hold it down and then just drag it over both of these layers, you'll see them both highlighted. And now I can come to the top right where it says group, and then if I hit group, they are now grouped. And so what that means is I can resize them together and I can move them around together. And so now I'm not going to lose my shadow on that. So now that I have my video game controller, which looks pretty cool, I'm going to go ahead and pick some text. Now for this design, it's going to be a St. Patrick's Day design, and I wanted to say GamerCon, which is not trademarked, by the way, and has been used for, you know, several years now. So it is a niche that's relatively popular every year. So I'm going to pull up a text box by hitting T on my keyboard. And so here is my text box. And in the top one, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to do this in all caps, and I'm just going to put gamer. And it will be on top. I'm going to go ahead and make this a slightly lighter color here so that I can see it. And I'm going to drag it so it's nice and big so I can see where that's at. And then I'm going to put the con on the bottom. So I'm going to come down here. I'm going to click T again for another text box. And I'm going to put con. So it's going to be something like that, gamer con. Now, when we're designing for t-shirts, you always want it to cover as much space as possible. Unless you're specifically doing like a small text design, you want your design to fill up, you know, most of the page. You want it to be big because on the thumbnail, when people are searching, you want them to be able to see it easily, recognize it easily. And so if it's nice and big and bold, it stands out, it's easy to read, and those are the ones that tend to sell the best. So don't think that you need to make it small or fill up only half the page. You want it to be big and bold. And so with that in mind, I want this gamer to kind of cover the whole top half of the page, and I want con to sort of cover the whole bottom half of the page. So I want these to be nice and big. And since I'm going with sort of a distressed look here, I would like it to be a little bit textured too. So if I'm coming to my top left-hand corner where the fonts are, and I'm going to select my fonts, I can put narrow, I can put bold, I can put distressed, so lots of different textured, lots of different ways that I can search for this, grunge. Let's go ahead and just start with textured and see what comes up. And so there's a few textures that I like to use more than others, and the one that I'm going to use today is going to be this one right here. It is a rough, bold texture, and I'm going to go ahead and hit change all so it changes the bottom too. Perfect. And so whenever we've got a nice narrow font like this, when I go ahead and spread it out to make it fill the whole page, it is going to be very big. And so that is really cool. I bring it all the way out, fill the whole page, and it's going to be nice and big there. I'm going to do the same thing here. Now again, I can play with the colors in a little bit, but make that sort of fill that whole page up. Perfect. So I'm liking the way that that looks. I do want to go ahead and put a shadow on here, just like I have here, so it sort of looks like it goes. So I'm going to come to where it says effects, and we're going to do some text effects. And so we can go ahead and pick shadow. And then I can go ahead, pick a color. Right now, I can just use the same color I used on the controller if I want to. Now, I'm going to get rid of the transparency. So I want the transparency to go away. It doesn't have any blur, good, we don't want any blur. The offset, I want to make it nice and small, just like it is on the game controller. So nice and small like that. And that looks pretty cool. I'm going to do the same thing here where it says con. So go to effects. I'm going to select shadow. I'm going to select the color. We'll stick with that gray just so that it all goes together. Make sure I don't have any transparency. I'm going to bring the offset way down so it's about the same. And there we go. So far, so good. Now I can play with these colors here as well if I wanted that to be a different shade, lighter or darker. I can also go ahead and right click on it and put send to back, and that will put the text behind the video game controller. And I can do it here too, right click and send to back. And so now my controller is on top. So far so good. I like that. And I can space these up a little bit more, bring that gamer up just a little bit, so I can bring this up just a little bit. If I need to make the controller a tiny bit smaller just to make sure I've got some room, I can do that. Make sure everything's centered good. Perfect. And now from here, what I want to do is put like a little leprechaun hat on here. I want to bring something in other than the green to say that it's St. Patrick's Day. So a little leprechaun hat, a shamrock, something like that, pot of gold, whatever you want to really make it look, you know, St. Patrick's-y. Matter of fact, I suppose I could have done more of a gold shadow too if I wanted to, but let's just stick with this. So I'm going to go over to the left where it says elements. Again, I'm going to be searching. Let's go ahead and put leprechaun. Oops, I already searched leprechaun hats. And let's see what comes up for leprechaun hats. Now there's a ton of different hats that you can work with, and so you can play around, try to find something that looks good. Obviously, lots and lots of different ways that you can go with this. For me, I was just gonna pick the one right up top here because that was just easy. It's a nice wide hat that is a little bit shorter so it won't block my text too much. And so that was kind of important. I didn't want it to cover the text too much. Might even have to bring this, whoops. Might have to bring the video game controller down a little bit. Oops. Just to make sure that I've got enough space up here. Oops. So something like that. It's okay that it covers the words because you know it says gamer. If we're really concerned with it covering the words, we can still either bring this down more, okay, and that'll give it a little bit more space. I can even, if I wanted to, do more of a layer to where I put the con on top, so I could bring that to front, so now it is over the top of the controller, but you can still see the controller, so you can play with, you know, what's in front, you know, just to make sure you can read it. It says GamerCon, I know I can read it. It's okay to have that overlap. It's big, it's bold, it's filling the page, so I like that. I can take this hat too, and I can do some effects on it. So if I click Edit Image, I can go ahead and make that hat a little darker if I wanted to. I can bring up the saturation a little bit if I wanted to, and bring up the contrast even if I wanted to. So I can play with that hat to make it like look good, you know, make that a little bit darker there. So I think that goes better with the design. And I'm gonna go ahead and pull up a shamrock too. And again, lots of shamrocks. I could do a gold if I wanted to for the shamrock, or I could just stick with some of the green. I could even, you know, do a textured shamrock. Here's a little textured one here. So lots of ways I could go with this. I'm just gonna pull that sucker down. Oops. And right now I can't quite grab it. Oops, that's okay. Might have to move some of these layers out of the way to work with. I was thinking about putting it somewhere here, only now I'm kind of losing it. But that's okay, because here's what I can do. I can always do, you know, photo effects on any of these graphics too. So I've got my shamrock in here. I can't really see it, so two different ways I could go with it. I could either make the shamrock darker so that it looks like it's, you know, nice and dark on there, and so now I can see it. It just looks like a dark cutout. Or I could go the other way and I could make it a lot lighter and have it pop out that way, and anything in between. So there's lots of different ways I can play with this to make sure that it, you know, stands out a little bit. I could also play with the saturation too, so if I wanted it to just be really saturated, or if I wanted it to be more black and white, you know, so that I can, you know, have it pop any way I want. So something like that. And so you can definitely see that there's lots of fun ways we can go with this. Maybe I just want to put a little shamrock at the hat here, make it small, bring it up here on the hat, and then let's go ahead and change that color here, a nice darker green, just so I can see it. There's a shamrock there. And so there, I mean, really simple design, easy to make, fast to make, you know, and it fills the entire screen. And of course, just like everything else, this can be scaled out for different holidays, or you can make multiple versions with different fonts or different textures on the video game controller. So right now we just went with a pretty simple green grunge, but lots of different ways we can, you know, go with this. If I want the controller to be a little darker, again, I can always play with the brightness a little bit. I can always play with the saturation a little bit. So always lots of different ways we can go. I can pull up the contrast even a little bit, really make it pop. And so something like that looks pretty cool. And that's all there is to this design. So hopefully a fast, easy one for you guys. If you have any questions about how to create this design, or about cross niching, St. Patrick's Day, gamer niches, anything like that, or if you have any video requests, go ahead, drop them in the comments section below. I do try to get back to them as quickly as I can. If you're liking these videos and you haven't yet, please do subscribe. It really does help the algorithm and helps me out since I'm a growing channel. And I do hope to see you guys again soon. I hope you guys are making some good sales. So I will hopefully see you again. That's it for today's video. If you found this useful and would like to see more videos with helpful tips and tricks, be sure to hit like and subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss any of the weekly videos. As always, keep growing and stay creative, and we'll see you next time.